I'm talking to Scott Monty. He's the head of social media at Ford Motor Company. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for meeting with me today.
You bet.
So you're basically in charge of all social media for Ford Motor Company.
That's right.
What kind of things was Ford doing previous to your coming on board, and what are they doing now?
Well, before I got here, Ford kind of viewed social media as more of a hobby rather than as a strategic commitment. And we had been doing, well, of course, you may have heard of Ford Bold Moves. That was a campaign that was mounted, I think, around 2006, 2007, was marketing based. And then on the communication side, we were doing outreach to bloggers, inviting them to certain events, allowing them to drive our cars, things like that. And we also instituted Ford.digitalsnippets.com, our social media press room area, where we used a WordPress platform and backed it up with Flickr photos and YouTube videos. And the Flickr photos are Creative Commons licensed, so people can have fair use of them. But until then, or up until then, there was really no strategic component to what we were doing. There was no direction. It was a little bit here, a little bit there. So when I was brought on board, it was to really put a strategic format around what we were doing, tie our social media efforts to our business goals, and help align us together as a company under our One Ford plan as to how we were moving forward.
Right. Now, you guys have several accounts on Twitter. What are some of the main Ford accounts, and how long have you guys had a presence on Twitter?
Well, we've had a presence one way or another on Twitter since I came here. I had been using Twitter since March of 2007, and I used it, just to let people know what I was doing, updating them on my day-to-day life. And then I think about 2 weeks after I got here, we established a Ford account. Okay, and that's just at Ford. Pretty close along that time frame, I just reserved a lot of accounts because I saw it being a strategic asset for us. Having one-to-one conversation with people, giving them your undivided attention and responding to them in the public square essentially gives people the reassurance that Ford is actually committed to this and that we're out there every day engaging with customers and employees and whoever happens to be asking us questions. So there's the @Ford account, there's @Ford Drive Green, which talks about a lot of our sustainability initiatives, our hybrids, our electrification program. Ford Mustang, because that's something very different than our green initiatives, and you can imagine people that are interested in this car are not necessarily as tried and true environmentalists, shall we say.
Right.
Ford Trucks, we've established that account, haven't really given too much attention to it at this point. Ford Cust Service, obviously for our customer service team. They handle a lot of inquiries. We've actually got a Ford Latino account that we're staffing up now as part of our commitment to the Hispanic segment in social media. There's probably about 7 or 8 active accounts right now. And the goal with this, and I know Sam mentioned the Ford Fiesta account, the goal with this is to really help get a lot of our employees engaged. It's not just me manning each account. We've got teams of people that are actually going to be committed to this as we continue our march toward democratizing social media across the organization.
Right. So, speaking of the organization, in your efforts day to day on Twitter and other social media platforms for Ford, how much autonomy are you given, or is there committees and all kinds of decisions that are made by groups, or are you pretty much left to your own devices?
Well, for the most part, I'm given kind of carte blanche. I obviously have a number of projects, a number of strategic initiatives that are underway that are, that involve a lot of people. But the company trusts me with the brand online. I'm pretty much the front man online for Ford's brand. And as I said, as we democratize this, we're going to be training people to represent our brand online, be very comfortable and confident about how they interact with people based on Ford if we give them the appropriate guidelines. Now, there are a number of individuals and departments in the company who are interested in using social media for their own purposes, for their department's purposes. So the Ford Cust Service account, for example, on Twitter, that's handled by our SMART team on our customer service side, social media action and response team. They really took to this. They saw it as a great way to get involved with people and to help answer questions online. So they've got activities that they're off and running with on their own. And I kind of touch base with them from time to time and just make sure we're all aligned. And it
Okay.
happens, that's not just with customer service, but with a number of other departments as well.
Great. Now, with the auto industry in general, or in the past, I guess, and probably still in the present, they've been slow to adapt to changes in customer wants and desires, partly because of the costs that are involved in the production cycle. Do you see for the auto industry and Ford in particular that using social media is allowing you guys to adapt more quickly?
I don't think it's necessarily going to change the amount of time that it takes to bring a vehicle from concept to production. I mean, there's only so much you can squeeze on that.
Right.
You know, when Alan Mullally came to Ford 3 years ago, one of his first initiatives was to say, let's bring the Taurus back and make it better than ever. And he gave the designers 2 years instead of 3 years to make that happen. Okay, and that's still a pretty long period of time, especially when you think about social media. It's like
Right.
a lifetime,
Right.
right? What social media does do in this production process, and we've seen it with the Fiesta movement, is it gives us a chance to get real-time feedback from people, to share it internally within the company, and to make decisions based on that. You know, as Sam told you, the Fiesta is going to get an armrest because of the feedback they got from the agents. But we're still a good 9 months to a year out from when the vehicle is hitting the streets, and that's barely being squeezed into the production process
Right.
at this point.
So is that something we might see in the future, having more similar things to the Fiesta movement for other new models that are coming out?
Well, I think we have to be careful about how we approach each one. I mean, the Fiesta movement is just, it's a nearly perfect program as far as the timing and the type of vehicle and the constituency we're interested in.
Right.
I think we'll need to take each vehicle and each product launch on its own. And we'll need to look at, again, how we start to utilize this internally as we globalize a lot of our platforms. You know, the Fiesta is our premier vehicle that's actually being standardized across all of our global regions. So as we continue to do that, say with the Focus and other vehicles, we'll have to assess what tools and what processes are right for that.
Right. Also, I want to ask you, with you guys' increased presence on Twitter and other social media platforms and the work you guys are doing, do you think that's done things to increase or better the image of Ford?
I think people that are paying attention to those spaces, it most certainly has. We just hosted an event yesterday in Chicago for 60 women bloggers, and we brought them out to our Chicago assembly plant and put them in touch with a lot of our product and technology experts. And to a person, I believe that they were completely turned around in terms of how they thought of Ford and completely excited. And it's because we approached them through blogs and through Twitter and on Facebook that they were able to find out about this and understand that Ford is really engaged in this space. So again, to people that are paying attention, absolutely, they see a difference in Ford. It's just that's a percentage of the population. And it's just a reminder to us that social media is not a panacea.
Right.
It's not the great solution to everything. It's just another part of how we market and communicate with our customer base.
Right. And one last thing I wanted to mention, there was a recent study that came out that listed the top corporations, or the corporations doing the best job using social media, and you guys were in the top 10, so I wanted to congratulate you on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. It's been a pretty wild ride, obviously for the entire auto industry over the last year, and for Ford in particular, we've kind of come out on top. We've still got a ways to go. We're not going to rest until we get to #1 on that list, and reaching #1 may take us a lot longer than it took to get us from 0 to number 10 in the past year. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, Scott, thank you very much for talking to me today.
All right, you bet. Thanks for coming by.